Thank you all for joining us. This is the September 12th, 2017 meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're going to begin as we typically do, and that's with a prayer. Tonight we have with us Dr. Bruce Chesser. He is the senior pastor at First Baptist Church, and we are delighted that you're here with us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
When he finishes, we're going to say the pledge, so please go ahead and rise.
Our Father, it's been a good day. We thank you for it. Now we thank you for those that lead in our city. Thank you for a wonderful place that we can call home here in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And we pray for those who make decisions on our behalf, that you would give them wisdom and insight and direction. And we continue to pray, Lord, for your blessings upon our nation. We pray for those that lead us in our state, those that lead us nationally. We thank you for all your blessings, and we look to you for guidance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Dr. Chesser, we appreciate very much what First Baptist Church does for us, and we appreciate you very much being here tonight. So please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is acceptance of the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. I would like to add our mayor's report, very brief mayor's report, before A. Would the folks who made the motion agree with that?
Yes.
And the second?
Yes.
There we go. So we have that one change. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as we've changed? Alderman Waters, you have a puzzled look on your face. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I was busy reading, I didn't hear you.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the agenda with the addition of a mayor's report under committee reports as the first item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We have an agenda. I sense that we have some ladies here that are part of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Could y'all come on up here and join me, please? Here, I'm gonna. Let me read a little bit here. September 17th marks the 230-year anniversary of the Constitution of the United States. And it's fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent creation and the anniversary of this document and commemorate the occasion. The Daughters of the American Revolution promote the principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. And the Daughters of the American Revolution preserve our history by making graves and homes of patriots and by teaching children and giving scholarships to outstanding students in the field of American history. They honor our outstanding teachers by presenting medals. They encourage patriotism by flying the flag and handing out brochures and flags to new citizens. And they donate money, magazines, books, knitted and crocheted lap throws, socks, and fellowship for our veterans at the VA hospital. Whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of proclamation each year by the President of the United States, I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week. And I urge all citizens of Hendersonville to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution embraced in 1787. We appreciate you all very much being here. Can you say something a little bit? Okay, thank you.
Mayor Clary, Alderman, and distinguished guests, my name is Nancy Gilley, but in Hendersonville, I'm better known as Andy Gilley's mom. On behalf of the over 140 members of the General Jethro Sumner chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, I thank you for having us here tonight, and am honored to accept this proclamation in honor of Constitution Week. DAR is committed to the promotion of patriotism, education, and historic preservation. In his address to Congress, President John F. Kennedy stated, "The Constitution makes us not rivals for power, but partners for progress. We are all trustees for the American people, custodians of the American heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your continued efforts to ensure that we may continue to enjoy the freedoms and liberties that the Constitution provides. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, I think we want another one. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. We've got a great group of folks coming up right here, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Cody Russell.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman, for having us here tonight and just letting me come talk to you briefly. This group of people that stands, excuse me, try not to get emotional here. I'm going to try and hold it down. The group of people in front of you today is a small but growing community of families that are fighting pediatric cancer here in the Sumner County area. This is a very small group. This only represents 5 children that are in the county today, but there are over 20 and maybe even more. There are 20 that we know of today. We want to thank you because Mayor Clary has allowed us to state that today will be a day that we recognize pediatric cancer and bring awareness, and that the city of Hendersonville will go gold for us there, or for everyone involved. What you don't realize about these families is it doesn't stop here. It's a spider web. It goes further and beyond. The struggle, the fight is to grandparents, it's to friends, it's to kids on the baseball field, it's to the kids at school, to the teachers. It goes far beyond just this small group of children there. I mean, in this families, or the families that are here alone, I could probably count 1,000 people that are affected by each of our stories. Excuse me. Every day, just so y'all know, every day nationally, there are 48 children that are diagnosed with cancer. And of that 48, 7 every day do not win their fight. Today, the National Cancer Institute only dedicates 4% of all funds raised for cancer to pediatric cancer. A lot of adults have a choice of how they treat their bodies. They have a choice of how they raise themselves, and sometimes the things that we do as adults, the choices we make, we reap the rewards of that, and sometimes that's in the form of cancer. Children don't have that. Children are just playing, they're laughing, they are spending time playing games or trying to do the things that children should do. And for that number to be so small, it's heartbreaking for us. But one of the things that is most healing is to have a community that stands behind you. A community that wraps their arms around you and says, no matter what, we are going to go and we're going to fight with you and we're going to stand beside you, and hopefully you guys get to win the fight too. These kids represent the future of our city, the future of our nation, and I think they deserve more than 4. So thank you.
I'm going to call you in just a second here, Cody, again. Let me read this to you. Whereas cancer is diagnosed in nearly 15,000 of our country's young people each and every year in the United States, and as a community we wish to support all efforts and renew our commitment to advance research, improve treatment, and ensure a brighter, healthier future for all young Americans. Whereas September is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, and this year our community wishes to announce the Sumner County Goes Gold initiative to bring awareness, education, and support for those and these families in our area that are struggling with this reality. and working tirelessly to change these alarming statistics while trying to provide aid and support for our families in need. Whereas recognition of Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month and the Sumner County Goals Gold Initiative is a wonderful opportunity to educate the public, our students, and the community of the reality of childhood cancer and its impact on our children, our families, and our community. I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim September as Sumner County Goes Gold Month, and I encourage all citizens to educate themselves in this difficult disease and to support the future events, activities, and fundraisers in order to help them not just to survive, but thrive throughout their lives. I have one of these bracelets. I saw Cody has one of these bracelets. I think y'all have one of these bracelets. We've got some here at City Hall. This group of families have done tremendous work already. I've seen bracelets around. I've seen folks wearing gold. I've seen many messages about Sumner County Goes Gold, and I haven't even proclaimed it Sumner County Goes Gold week yet, or month, excuse me. So y'all are doing a tremendous job. I very much appreciate what y'all are doing. Do you want to talk about what's coming up? Okay. Okay.
Well, I wasn't prepared to speak, but on Sunday, September 24th, we will be having a Sumner County Goes Gold event at our church, Godwhy Church on New Shackle and Raindrop Lane from 12:30 to 2 p.m. We're going to have bounce houses for the kids to play. O'Charlie's is providing lunch, and we are going to have a medal ceremony to honor, okay, here we go, to honor our fighters, and we are also going to have medals to honor their siblings, because it's not only the patient themselves that suffer, it's all of them, and we just want to even going from this point forward, we want this to be something every year. And the community has embraced us so well this year, we were really not even prepared for it. So we're just so blessed and thankful to be getting this out there, and just are excited to see what the future holds in Hendersonville and in Sumner County for us. But if you have any questions or anything, we're happy to answer anything. Thank you, guys.
Sure, it's up to you.
You want to have someone else take it? Someone else can, I'm sure, operate on
They know how to pose really well.
There's celebrities if you ask them.
Yeah.
Mayor, before they leave, the Board of Holiday Fest would like to tell all of you that you have tickets to come to the Santa breakfast.
Come on, Chuck. Come on up here. Y'all, I just heard from the recipient of our next proclamation. Here we go. Whereas the city of Hendersonville, as a sister city of Whoville since 2007, proclaims that the holiday spirit will begin in Hendersonville on October 1st and include the annual parade and shall end on January 31st. And whereas the city of Hendersonville has been selected to lead the holidays in Tennessee in the areas of Oktoberfest, House on Haunted Hill, Garlands and Glitter Fashion Show, Sugar Plum Fashion Show and Cake Auction, annual Indian Lake Loop, annual Canine Cutie Pageant, Appalachian Christmas at Rock Castle, and Christmas Tree Elegance at Mont Haven, the annual tree lighting in Memorial Park, 11th annual Breakfast with Santa, 11th annual St. Nicholas Ball, and the 44th annual Christmas Parade. Whereas the city of Hendersonville will hold the Holiday Fest celebrations, which was established in 2007. Whereas the city of Hendersonville proclaims Holiday Fest as events which honor community, creativity, literacy, charity, and tradition, and honors the volunteers with an annual King and Queen. Whereas the city of Hendersonville will honor our sister city Whoville with the 11th annual Miss Cindy Lou Who contest, to be held during the Holiday Fest celebrations. I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, in our desire to establish the holiday spirit and encourage giving, hereby proclaim this Holiday Fest season to be in effect through January 2018, and I encourage all citizens to participate in these special holiday celebrations. So thank you all so much.
We couldn't do this, we couldn't do all this without the support of the aldermen and City Hall and all the wonderful things that all of you do. And thank you, and it really is our 42nd parade in this city. It's not the 11th. It might be the 11th that we've had it and have been coordinating it. But we're able to give over $85,000 to charities in Sumner County. So thank you. And we have no paid employees, all volunteers. So thank you.
We saw Santa hats tonight. Next on the agenda is public hearings. We have none. Approval of the minutes from August 22nd, 2017. We have a motion. Second. And a second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from August 22nd, 2017, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Citizens' comments. Paul Varble. Come on up. Good. Thank you, Paul.
My name's Paul Varble. I'm president of the Firefighters Association. I'll be brief with my comments. We've had lots of conversations, lots of emails, and I'm just here to say one last time, I hope you support Alderman Cunningham's ordinance to keep our pay at pay period at 24 pay periods a year. And so I'm up here representing the firefighters and a lot of other city employees too. So keep my comments brief, and thank you for the support.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. We have nobody else signed up for citizens' comments unless we missed somebody. Seems like we did not. Next on the agenda is committee reports, and first is the mayor's report. Very, very briefly. 3 weeks ago, I cut off a couple aldermen, and I need to apologize for that. I apologize, Alderman Stamper. I apologize, Alderman Sprouse. I shouldn't have done that. Finance Committee, Chairman Cunningham.
No report this week, Mayor.
Okay. General Committee, Chairman Sprouse.
Thank you. Got a long report because we had a long meeting, a lot in 30 minutes. We, ordinance 2017-30, resolution 2017-29 deal with annexation of a small portion of Eagleview subdivision into the city. That is being recommended unanimously to the board. We also had ordinance 2017-31, rezoning property on the south side of Volunteer Drive. That's been recommended unanimously to the board. Ordinance 2017-32, rezoning property located on the north and south sides of Industrial Park Drive. Also unanimous recommendation to the board. We have resolution 2017-30, resolution to approve a final development plan for Indian Lake Village dealing with a water tower, recommended unanimously to the board. And the resolution 2017-32 dealing with calculation of years of city services for retiree benefits, recommended unanimously to the board. We had one other item before us and it is ordinance 2017-34 dealing with the Forest Park rezoning. We had probably about a 10-15 minute discussion about that, got some information from our planning director, received some information from the applicant, And one of the pieces of information that was presented was the applicant has agreed to a $2,100 per unit fee paid towards the city to improve infrastructure in the area, the roads, and including $653,000 of that up front. Now, the reason why that's important information was a few weeks ago, the Capital Projects Committee met to consider some road improvements on Saundersville Road, different options that were available to us, and the cost of those. We did not know yet. We had hoped that this offer from the applicant was going to come, but we did not know if it was, nor did we know what the cost was going to be. So based upon that, the General Committee voted unanimously to refer this back to the Capital Projects Committee for them to have a meeting so they can discuss these roads improvement projects now that we have real numbers and we know how much things could cost and how much we're going to be spending with those. So that was the recommendation of the General Committee. It was the action of the General Committee was to send it to Capital Projects to continue that discussion. We also had, at the direction of this board, we mentioned last meeting, we had a very brief discussion with representative or with the county commissioner from Hendersonville dealing with the health department issue. And the options that were presented to us were them, the city, them acquiring in some way a city-owned property, them purchasing property in Hendersonville, or them just continuing the growth of the health department in Gallatin and essentially just removing it from Hendersonville. The discussion the committee had and some of the other aldermen in the room mirrored what was said in this meeting, which was we'd like to have that discussion. We'd like to continue the negotiations, but anything's going to have to recognize that city-owned property has value to the city, paid for by city tax dollars, and the county needs to be prepared to negotiate and work with us and recognize the value of that land in some way. And so the committee that the Mayor Clary and County Executive Holt is going to be meeting, again, with that direction, and I would expect that that committee would report back to this board at our next meeting. And that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Alderman Gilly.
That meeting is Thursday at 5 o'clock at the Senior Citizens Center, for anybody that's interested.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
We hope to have by Thursday, hopefully from somewhere, an actual estimated value of that piece of land to work with.
If I can help you with that, let me know.
I would love for you to help us with that because a couple of phone calls have gone unanswered, so
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Chairman Brown, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mayor. This discussion on purchasing ballistic vest for our fire department. It was a presentation made by a vendor that the chief and some of the other folks had been working on. The committee thought that was a good idea, that we possibly pursue that. If there's money left over in this year's budget, or if not, possibly looking at putting in that purchase in next year's budget for 2018. There's also a discussion on open burning in the city. We had this discussion before. There was some investigation done by our fire department, especially Mr. Barble, on other cities, what they do, what's the best thing for us. We have an issue with commercial builders who pull permits every 7 days to burn, which is basically burn wood, so on and so forth, but they end up, some of them burn everything in sight. So it's recommended by the fire department, and it's being recommended by the safety committee. Be asking Mr. Bradley to draft an instrument prohibiting commercial burning in the city of Hendersonville. And we'd like for that to be done within a couple weeks. We'll bring it before the board, and hopefully that can be enforced on November the 3rd of this year. Also had a lengthy discussion on traffic calming for the senior center and discussion of adding bollards on Campus Drive to slow traffic cutting through the senior center. I think the conclusion of that was that we asking Chip and his department will be installing 4 or 5 flexible bollards similar to what we installed in the parks on the entrance sides of that cut through. To slow that traffic down. There may be a flagpole built or some other things to to slow it down, and a through street, not a through street sign put up because folks are using it as a cut through. We've had one senior, I understand, that's been hit, and a couple that's been close. That'll be happening. We also had a discussion regarding PD and fire department expenses related to commercial business vehicle crashes in the city, how we're handling that, and we all agree that we'll continue on looking at those on a case-by-case basis. That's pretty well the report. I would like to take a moment, though. There's some fellows in the room here that went to Houston, Texas, representing the city. See Chief Hannah's back there, Jesse's there. I don't know. Raise your hand if you went. I know there's a bunch of you in here. Jesse?
2 of the 6 that's here.
Sir?
Just 2 of the 6.
2 of the 6. You're representing 6 great guys, all representing our entire fire department, our city. We appreciate what you did for Houston, Texas. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works.
Thank you. Just briefly, if I have the hiccups, forgive me. But I've been fighting them here for about 45 seconds, but I think since you scared me by saying my name, I don't think I have them anymore now. Yeah, thanks. Now I have them again. No. If you'll see on your, we're meeting in 2 weeks at our normal time. We may be having a special called meeting just to let the rest of the committee members know, but Chip and myself will be getting in contact with you in case we do have that coming forward. We might have a special call. Tonight on the agenda tonight, you will see first reading of 2017-28 was passed unanimously in our committee. And then also on tonight's agenda, resolution 2017-28 and 2017-31 was passed unanimously and asked for approval at this board level. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chairman Campbell, Capital Projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report tonight, but I will be getting with Chip to discuss the meeting we need to have about Forest Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Petrelli, Planning Commission, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Hendersonville Regional Planning Commission met on Tuesday, September 5th. Approved projects include Millstone Phase 4, Section 2, Final Plat, Millstone Phase 5, Section 1, Final Plat, Durham Phase 2, Section 25, Final Plat, Eagle View, Final Plats, Hunt Club Phase 8, Final Plats, Hunt Club Phase 9, approved with Public Works comments 1 and 3, Hunt Club Phase 11, Hunt Club Phase 12. Under preliminary and final development plans, Forest Park was recommended denial to Boma. Main Street Climate Control Self-Storage, that was deferred by the applicant. Hendersonville Utility District, Indian Lake Village Phase 5 Water Tower, recommended approval to Boma. Jamie Spurlock Property Parking Lot Addition, which is on the north end of Free Hill Road, south side of Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, approved. Under preliminary plats, we have Falcon Ridge was approved. On rezoning 101 Tennessee Way, that was recommended approval to Boma. And 8 and 13 Industrial Park Boulevard, that was also recommended as an approval to Boma. And then Resolution 2017-07, a resolution serving as a report to the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the proposed plan of services for the proposed annexation of Eagle View subdivision, was recommended approval. Any questions?
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Woodcock, Hendersonville Horizons.
Thank you, Mayor. The steering committee has had several meetings in the last few weeks that have been pretty late in the evening. We are at the point where we are ready to present our roadmap for the future of Hendersonville. I would like to discuss with you how best to present that, because we don't feel that placing on an agenda with many other items such as tonight would be a would be beneficial because it's a
Okay.
very in-depth
Okay.
report. So maybe you and I can get together and maybe discuss having a workshop for
Okay.
just that item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Ordinance and resolutions. We have first reading of ordinance 2017-26. This is an ordinance amending ordinance 2017-23, which is our budget ordinance, by increasing the funding for the city's share of the Caps Gap landfill closure. I so move. We have a motion and a second. Alderman Strauss.
This is just one of those I want to point out. It's something that everyone on the board here knows, but I think it's just important to point out that this is an agreement that predates, I think, this deals with an agreement, I think, that predates everybody on this board. One in which the city is a partner in the Resource Authority and the landfill. And it's unfortunate because we're partners with another city, and that city in Gallatin and Hendersonville are partners with Sumner County, which last time I checked, Hendersonville and Gallatin are also in Sumner County. So it's just one of those times I know that I'm going to honor, I'll vote for this to honor the agreement, that the city of Hendersonville has a responsibility. I may not agree with the decision that was made that created that responsibility before we got here. And I think it's something that we should keep in mind as we start looking at further situations like this, that we don't have a board 20 years from now or 30 years from now has a similar regret. Thank you.
Thank you. See nobody else wishing to participate in discussion. All those in favor of approving first reading of ordinance 2017-26, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next is first reading of ordinance 2017-28. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance 2017-23, our budget ordinance, and appropriate performance bond funds from the general fund reserve account. Alderman Skidmore.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing nobody wishing to participate in discussion, all those in favor of approving first reading of ordinance 2017-28, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Third, we have first reading of ordinance 2017-29. This is an ordinance appropriating funds for a feasibility study regarding impact fees for development in Hendersonville. I so move. Second. We have a motion and a second. See nobody wishing to participate in the discussion. Oh, Alderman Brown.
I do want to participate or start a discussion, maybe. I don't know. I just have a question. We're looking at $40,000. How did we? Two questions, I guess. May I'll add to three. Keith's probably going to have to weigh in on. Maybe I don't know. But how did we come out with $40,000? Was that we threw a dart and hit the target and it said 40? And who do we pay $40,000 to do a feasibility study to decide if we need any impact fees?
Right, that's a very good question.
Thank you, sir. I thought so.
What
we don't have to. He's an officer. Yeah.
what we looked at is looking at development impact fees. You have to have a third party do a development impact fee study in order to base any future impact fees on. These typically can range anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000. So 40 was kind of there, sort of on the mid range of that. It's very possible once we bid it out, it could be higher than that. I think the way we probably want to approach it, you can throw everything in the development impact fees with roads, fire, police, parks, and all types of services. You can throw those in there, but probably it's going to be best to do a phased approach where we have an initial look at things and then determine which of those items are worth spending more money on the study to get the final development impact fee report. But more than likely, it very well could exceed the $40,000. But when we would do a request for proposal and get an estimate on that, then we would be able to determine that exact amount. But probably 40 is a good number to start with. Hopefully, it would be lower.
And we didn't want to throw out 60 because then we're pretty sure what the bids are going to come out.
Yeah.
One more quick question. Yes. Time frame. What kind of time frame are you looking at? I know what time frame we're looking at here. Right. You're gonna put those RFPs out like ASAP or?
Yeah, we would put those out right away. Probably secure somebody within the next 30 to 45 days. once we engage them, from that point until we maybe get to a point to make a decision and have something enacted, it probably would be at the minimum 6 months if everything just moved smoothly through that. We haven't had impact fees before, so this is a new area that we're looking in. A lot of the communities in Middle Tennessee have embraced the impact fees, but this will give us an idea of the study, if impact fees are appropriate for us, looking at the potential development we have remaining in the city.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alderman Brown, anything else?
No, sir.
Alderman Stamper.
Keith, yeah. You'd mentioned a lot of the cities built out. I want to make sure we're getting good bang for our buck and a good return on it. How much, I guess, developable area do we have remaining in the city, roughly?
That's one of the things that the planning department is going to be looking into over the next couple of months to determine what that exact number is. Our belief has been that it's about between 28 to 30% of available, developable property. When you take out floodplains and some of those different issues.
Is our approach a little bit different now? I sat in on the general committee and we talked about the developers along Saundersville Road, for instance, not Millstone excluded, not really chipping in too much to the kitty to help improvements on Saundersville, and now we're kind of holding the feet to the fire. So are we already kind of moving that direction of impact fee like restrictions or discussions with developers?
Not really. For Forest Park, for example, that you heard in tonight's meeting, in the general committee meeting, those are really what's considered negotiated off-site improvements through the process of planned development rezoning. So they're just agreements that a developer may agree to, the city agrees to make improvements, but those are not development impact fees. And actually looking at the ones that we've had in the past, that's what's been challenging as we're looking at Forest Park, for example, and other developments to try to assess what is that proper calculation of how do you calculate that to determine the figure. That's why it's been so difficult to determine, because we really haven't had a true formula to use. But development impact fees would be a way to spread that across all new development, and it would be, it'd be equitable and fair across all development. But up to this point, it's just a negotiated off-site improvements. It's not really development impact.
Thank you, Keith. I wanted to just say, hindsight's 20/20, and who among us, wouldn't have thought about doing this a long time ago? Mm-hmm. And I think it's overdue. So 40,000 or 60,000, I think there's still a sufficient amount of developable land that we need to do this. We need to consider impact fees and make sure our infrastructure is keeping up with our pace of development. Thank you.
Alderman Stamper, thank you. See nobody else wishing to participate in discussion. All those in favor of accepting first reading of ordinance 2017-29, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2017-25. This is an ordinance regarding changes to the work period of employees for the city of Hendersonville. Alderman Cunningham.
So moved.
Second. A motion is second.
Okay.
Alderman Cunningham, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to speak briefly. I really don't want to beat a dead horse over and over and over again here, but our finance committee was charged with the task of coming up with a recommendation of what best is going to suit the city as a whole, the employees, especially the rank and file. And we were presented with 3 different options by the finance department, option 1, 2, and 3. We chose to recommend option 2 simply because the major complaint was changing from semi-monthly to biweekly, whereas there would be 26 pay periods instead of 24, which means 10 out of 12 months, the employees would be receiving less money. 2 out of those 12 months, they would be receiving an extra check because of the 2 extra weeks in the year that they were going to get paid. So with that in mind, that was the major complaint that we were dealing with. Also, there was a lag time from ending the new pay period and ending the new payroll system period and starting the new. So with that lag time of about 5 days, that would be less time that they would be getting, that would be more time between those two, the ending and starting paycheck. So that's where we came up with the solution to be able to add 5 extra days to that last paycheck. I believe that this is the right thing for our employees, the right thing for our city, and the right thing for the health and welfare and safety of our citizens. I truly believe that this has an impact, especially on the rank and file. And sometimes the best thing isn't always the right thing to do. So maybe this isn't the best thing, but it's the right thing. There's a difference. Like I said previously, the major complaint was switching from semi-monthly to bi-weekly, from 24, oh boy, see? The rank and file, they answer the call.
Guys, be safe.
But anyway, yeah, be safe. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that. So with that in mind, our Finance Committee came up with option number 2. Now, just to give you a little history, about a week or 2 later, we had another regularly scheduled finance meeting, and then we were presented with yet another option 4. And it was kind of an ad hoc, impromptu type of thing. But why weren't we, my question was, why weren't we presented with option 4 at the special call finance meeting when we were all making that decision to make a recommendation? So that's my say.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Hedberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 things. I'd like to clarify this ordinance. I've read it and read it and read it and read it, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what this ordinance is saying. That the pay dates will change as of January 6, 2018. They will change. But it does not necessarily mean that the software will go in, won't start, correct? This is just the change of the pay dates, nothing else but the change of the pay dates. Okay, I wanted to verify that. The other thing I want to say is I went back and I got some of the meeting notes from 2 years ago with some of the committee meetings, some of the staff meeting notes with regards to some of this. And I just want to say that I hope that as we as a city, we look at what's happened with this project here, with this. We've gone hours and hours of taking the fire department and the police department away from the streets because we've had meeting after meeting. I hope that we learn a huge lesson here. I believe that this was done wrong from the get-go. There should have been meetings. This should have gone to a finance meeting. We should have gone from the finance meeting and got a committee of all heads of departments, and we should have gone over item by item in detail with the department heads. So I'm glad that we're going to make headway with this, but I hope that we look at this and we learn our lesson and we don't make a debacle of something this huge, especially with our employees in the future. And I hope that we can make this right now. Thank you.
Real quickly, a couple things. We've continued to work on this, the staff has, because we continue to listen. And there's been some options that have been thrown out that have refined option. I mean, option 2 is really a tweaking of option 1. Option 3 was really a tweaking of option 1 as well. And then option 4 was a tweaking of option 2. as our staff has continued to listen, we try to make the situation better. And the latest of that is something that our staff came up with, I think that actually helps an awful lot. And that is that instead of making this change in January, it would wait to the end of the fiscal year, in the beginning of next fiscal year, which would give our employees more time to prepare and give us an additional 6 months to prepare. That also eliminate the need for the $250,000 that could go for roads or other services. And it also would mean that it would work out better with the end of the fiscal year and the turnover and the preparation that we would need as we get to the end of the fiscal year. So there's certainly some benefits. If there's benefits waiting until January, there's even greater benefits waiting until June. And that's something that our finance department put together to wait until June. So I think there are certainly some benefits that we're hearing from our finance committee to wait until June instead. Alderman Stamper.
Just to clarify, you mean by waiting until July 1 to go to bi-weekly? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Or make any changes for that matter.
Wait a minute.
Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Golly Moses. Like they're, I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I don't know why this is so hard, but it seems like it's very hard. I want to agree with my colleague in Ward 3. I don't think this was rolled out well. Okay? I know some people don't like that, but I don't believe it was rolled out very well. I need to ask a question because I don't know the answer. Did this program plan, I guess I'll ask the two on the back row because I don't know. Did it ever go before a committee? Was there a committee, was Finance Committee or Public Works Committee or anybody involved with this? Or was this just decision was all made by Finance and IT?
Yeah, I can probably take care of that. The decision was from the board to make some changes. Gosh, I guess it was a year and a half ago, to make some changes. And then there were several folks in the staff that got together. It was never a committee. It was more informal than formal, and giving input on what we needed from our pay plan to make changes. And for the most part, those decisions were made in finance because they're the ones who pay the bills, and IT, they were the ones who put it together. We talked about it at staff meeting a couple times before I was here, and at least once since I've been here. But I don't think it ever went to any of the board committee or any of the city formal committees.
Did you want to comment, Ms. Epic?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd like to hear what you have to say. If that's fine with the board. I mean,
without objection, Mary Beth. Okay, good.
I just want to clarify one thing. I don't want it to make it seem to you guys that it was finance and IT. The project came about because of the board wanted timekeeping to be trackable. Right now, it's just through paper. The decision to go to biweekly is not because of the software. The software can handle either way. That was always a decision from the get-go, what we want to do, what is best for the city. And because of overtime calculations and things like that, going Saturday to Saturday and tracking those hours fell in line with the pay periods would be easier for overtime calculations. So we lean towards biweekly. Now, prior to Mayor Clary, Mayor Foster, and our department head meetings, it was always, and you could check the minutes from those meetings, a decision needed to be made, a decision needed to be made. And then all of a sudden, there wasn't any discussion about a decision anymore. It was, we're on track to go to biweekly, we're on track to go to biweekly. In between that decision needs to be made and the we're on track to go biweekly was because there was a vote between all the department heads who wanted to go to biweekly. Every single department head raised their hand. Now, whether or not they understood what they were raising their hand may be something completely different. I don't know why they would have raised their hand then, but that's neither here nor there. The decision was made, and we just took that ball and ran with it. It was a project that needed to be done. And that's all I wanted to clarify with the board.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm not done, but I appreciate you saying that. If I still have the floor, if
You do,
anybody has.
you do. Go ahead.
If I need to yield for a question from Ms., I'd be glad to do that.
Well,
That's Robert's rules, Mayor, I can do that.
Well, you've got the floor now, and
I do, and I can yield it.
No, you can't. Those are not Robert's rules. Those are rules among other government
I
bodies.
suggest you read them, sir.
You still have the
But
floor.
I still have the floor.
You still have the floor, and Alderman
Thank you.
Waters and Alderman Foster next.
All right. Since I still have the floor, I thank you
I
for
can
what
sit
you had to
down.
say. Yes. I will say that I still think there was not a good rollout on this at all. I'll continue to say that, and the reason I'll say that, and it was my original question, did this project ever work through a committee? A Public Works Committee, a Safety Committee, a Finance Committee? And the answer to that is no, it did not work through a committee. Everything else we do works through a committee. So I think working through a committee certainly would have helped the rollout here. We've had option one, which is, I guess, what we're doing now, and option two is what we're considering to do, and whatever other options are up there, and then we have another option come to us. That's one reason I don't think there was a good rollout. I understand that the staff has been listening and tweaking and doing this, but I think the option should have been presented from the get-go instead of just, we're going to do this. And now, I do realize probably that some of those folks standing in the back room are sitting, heard that we're going to go bi-weekly, and then there was a realization when that sample check came out that holy moly, So, there's anytime you're talking about money and somebody's payroll, somebody's money, whether it's a little bit or a lot, it's a big deal. And, this has become a really big deal. Yeah. I would tell you that I'm not overly in favor of spending $250,000 out of the general fund. I'm just not. I will. I'll vote for this ordinance, but I'm not real happy about it. Back in June, we found $911,000 we didn't know we had. And as we worked through the budget process, we spent about $550,000 of that dollars the last night of budget. So if we spent another $250,000 of that, I guess we still got a net gain. That's a silly way of looking at stuff, but so I guess we do. But I don't really want to spend the $250,000 because I just don't feel good about it. But I kind of agree with my colleague who sponsored this. I don't remember exactly what she said, but those were pretty good words, that sometimes it may not be the best thing, but it's the right thing. And I think this is the right thing. So I'll support it, but I'm not going to go home smiling about it. So thank you.
Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with the previous speaker here. I'm not happy, but I'm going to support it. But as I look through all my notes, this has been a broken down ship ever since it started. And I'm just going to cover one or two things. On July the 27th, 2017, this board gets a email. I am sure you are aware of the upcoming transition to the exact timekeeping system. We choose to begin this transition on August the 27th, 30 days. No, I was not aware of the upcoming transition. That's one thing that the previous alderman has covered. It was not a discussion with this board, and frankly, I think we got too many chiefs involved in bringing this to the board. If I may, Mayor, I'd like to ask Chief Bush to come to the podium. I want to ask him a couple of questions.
I'm good, thanks. I got some back here.
Chief, I've had many discussions with your staff, along with the police department staff, and I am so frustrated with what I'm hearing up until I read what's on the agenda tonight. I was tickled to death when I read the agenda tonight, what our finance committee proposed to this board. And again, I'm like my previous speaker. I'm not really sold, but I'm for this. I don't care if it's $250,000. We'll find it. Like you said, we found money before. We can find this one. But I'm hearing where you, being a director, you raised your hand, but you don't know what you raised your hand for. Would you elaborate on what?
That's not exactly true. I know exactly what I raised my hand for when the question was posed to me in the staff meetings. The staff meetings, it was explained to us that we were looking at going bi-weekly, and at the end of the year, your bottom line would not change. So obviously, I've passed that around to my staff, said, that's what we're looking at, we're going bi-weekly, good strong possibility of it. Your end amount at the end of the year will not change. So the statement that I don't know what I'm raising my hand about is kind of inaccurate. I do know what I was raising my hand about. We didn't have any figures laid before us. We were told it was going to be a little less. Now, what's a little less? To me, $100 may be a little less. But to some of my staff, $10 may be a little less. And that's not my job as a director, is to push them to direction if they're having financial issues through the HR, the EAP. I don't delve into people's finances. I don't have a background in that. I'm a fire chief. So to say that I raised my hand and knew exactly what I was raising my hand for, or that I did not, is an inaccurate statement.
Did you attend very many committees with
There was no committees.
No committees?
It started out with talking to folks about looking at different products. And they brought in the timekeepers. They brought in some key players as this was going out. And as this started, they were getting shown different pieces of people's product. And as that happened, it went silent for about 7 or 8 months. Nobody heard anything from anybody. And then finally they came back and said, this is who we're going with, this is the product we're buying, and that was the committee. And the committee was put on folks that were just being educated on whether they liked it or didn't like whatever product was being shown to them.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, if I may, since I got the floor, I want to ask the...
Are you done with me, sir?
Yes, sir, thank you. Officer Hosmer, would you come to the podium too?
Without objection, we need to suspend the rules for Commander Harbsmeyer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Commander Harbsmeyer, thank you.
Yes, sir.
To say the least, I'm mad, okay? I've heard so much from this administration about this pay plan. I am just sick and tired. I've met with you. I don't deny I'm meeting with you and meeting with some of these people, because to me this is it. I mean, you start talking about my money, my salary, when I got a car note due, when I got a house note due, and I don't have the money coming in, I get upset. I get aggravated. So let me just follow up with, like I did with Chief Bush. Did you raise your hand in a committee like that?
Referring to the department staff meetings, I was not present at all those
I'm referring to
meetings.
the previous person that spoke about raising your hand.
At the department staff meetings, I was not present at all those staff meetings at the department level. I was present at some, but regarding the committee, what was stated earlier, there was a committee early on to start the vetting process of different vendors, and then that just stopped abruptly. We heard nothing else about it, and then we were told something else was purchased. and I was kind of at a loss as to why we even had a committee, because we didn't select a product, we weren't involved, at least I was not involved in that process. So as far as, again, the department head meetings, raising a hand to vote, I did not participate in that. I was at some of the meetings. I did not hear any details being mentioned at the meetings I was present at regarding the details of any pay plan or frequency of pay.
Were you a member of the core team?
Initially,
Core team, C-O-R-E.
I was initially what I believe a member of that core team that was starting to vet the process of different software vendors. We saw 2 or 3 vendors, and then the meetings just abruptly stopped. I was no longer contacted. It's my understanding that other members were no longer contacted. And then I remember receiving an email on or about March of 2015 that said, we have selected a product, and it was not a product that I was aware of. So I was not on any selection team selecting a product, a software that was going to implement software pay issues that dealt with the police department, as I was initially involved with. I hope that addresses your question.
Okay. You know, thank you. You can sit down if you'd like to.
Thank you.
As I look back, Mr. Chairman, when we voted on a software product with the previous mayor, we voted on a software program. Nothing was ever mentioned to this board about it's going to involve changing pay plans. Never. I don't recall ever hearing that word until I get this letter dated July the 27th that I'm aware of the transition. Now, Mayor, I'm going to be calm, and I tell you, that I love this 2017-35. I like it. And like my previous speaker, I'm going to vote for this because, to me, it's what these people deserve. They're getting tired of coming up here every other week, listening to us debate this, or coming to committee meetings and listen to option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. If we keep going, it's going to be option 5 and 6. So I'm going to close by saying, please, let's vote for this ordinance right here tonight, and let's get it done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Frost.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the way a lot of this has taken place has spoken to the process. And I'm not going to try and lay blame because I don't think that would do any good. I wish it had been done differently, but it was done the way it was done. And now we've got to deal with the ramifications of that. I wish also the different proposals, 1, 2, 3, and 4 had been brought out collectively as options. But I think one thing that caught my attention quickly is in the initial discussions, I remember the assistant finance director, she had a PowerPoint, I believe it was, presentation showing the different options. And if I remember correctly, she stated that we needed to make a decision because that's going to affect the implementation of the time. And we continue bouncing it around. But I'm almost certain I remember her saying that, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, that the timekeeping part of it, if this option number 2 was implemented, she would have to revamp, but yes, it could take place. I guess the most important thing is we're sitting here looking at all of this, and it's not really going to affect us per se. It's going to affect them. And they deserve to know from us what is going to happen so that they, who make our city operate, can make the adjustments they need to make financially. I support the ordinance. I'm concerned about the $250,000. The possibility of putting it off until the next fiscal year, yes, we could do that. I don't like kicking the can down the road. If the can's in front of me, then let's deal with it. The concern is our current general fund. I don't know if the mayor would be up to asking department heads, because it's affecting their employees, to maybe spend just 95% of their budget. Turn the other 5% in and help pay for it. I don't know if that's feasible. It's possible. But if we sit and wait another year, what could happen the next fiscal year? Where would our finances be? Are we going to be any better? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Mine's in the shop right now. But I think for us to remember that what we do to affect the employees that keep this city moving forward is an extremely important thing. I think the $250,000, it's going to worry me to do it, but our employees are worth it. And I think to enact option 2 is what we need to do. I don't think we need to postpone anything any further. I think we need to bring it to a close. Let these folks move on. And I hope in the future, when we do things that drastically affect other people, that we take all that into consideration when we're working through the process of what we need to do. I hate it that we're having to go through this. I really, really do. I know the whole process of buying the software, whenever it was, 3 years ago that we bought it, 4 years ago, was meant to help improve things for the city to run smoothly. But I just don't think that that came to be. I think we've got something where we want it to work, but it's not really working the way it should. So I support option 2. I encourage the board to support option 2 for the simple fact, if no other reason, that this is affecting the city employees. Thanks, Mayor, for the time.
Alderman Frost, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Okay, just one last comment, Mayor, thank you. Like I said, I'm proud to sponsor this ordinance, number one, after many, many weeks of going back and forth, 1, 2, 3, 4 options. But I just want to clarify that this is still semi-monthly. John? This is still, did you fall asleep?
No.
This is still semi-monthly.
Pay days
Yeah.
remain exactly as they are.
24 pay periods,
That's correct.
okay. Because I just want to clarify that and make that part of the minutes, because it's not exactly defined in the ordinance. and that that was the only other comment that I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Hedberg.
Thank you, Matt. Just one last thing that I did forget to say prior. If I remember rightly, Dana, when she was presenting her PowerPoint, if I can recall, and I don't have the figures in front of me, but we stood to save $600-some thousand per year by going to biweekly, and $3 million over 5 years, I believe, if that's what that was. But it's obvious that nobody wants to go bi-weekly. So, I mean, I have a hard time spending $250,000 too, but, you know, we don't have it. But we've got to make it right for the employees. The other thing I would like to say real quick is, I don't know that we can sit here and say that there's one or two people to blame. I personally, the way I've looked at it, I've come to my own conclusion. And I think the person that was in IT and the person that was in finance were doing what they were told to do. They were doing their job, and they've worked long, hard hours doing this. Now, obviously, somewhere along the line, something went wrong, but I'm not here, and I'm not prepared to say that this was somebody's fault. You know, there was someone else higher up that was directing the traffic there, so I want to put that on record. And I just want to make sure that we vote for this ordinance tonight and not something else, that we don't give you guys your 5 days extra pay that you're going to get, because we're going to wait until July now to make this happen. Thank you.
Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you. Just want to say a couple of things because some of the stuff has already been said about this. I just want to remind some of the older members on the board, this really goes back, if you all remember, back when our colleagues, and they had the right concept of what we needed to do, was Alderman Forsyth and Alderwoman West, when this whole thing came. And we were all in support of it then, because at that time we thought that nothing would change. It was just a better way to actually keep up with people's times, our employees' times. That's how far this thing goes back. Then when this came up this last time, 3 or 4 years ago, this board, and I had some reservations about it, but we were in these, you know, when we would all meet and talk about the budget, we voted for a program, if you all recall. I just want to let the board and the folks, our employees, and also the city of Hendersonville out there realize that's what it was. We were voting for the program. A lot of us assumed it was going to be the same thing as Alderman Forsyth and Alderman West had proposed back years and years ago, and it was finally coming to a fruition of what you know was going to happen. So I want to let the folks know about that. And then the other one, because a lot of the other stuff has already been said, but I do want to say one other thing too, and it's been mentioned a lot tonight. But at no time ever, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chip, it never came before the Public Works Committee. Not even one time, not even a sentence of it. I don't know why that it would. Well, I can see why it could have, and probably should have, but it didn't. We wouldn't be here talking about it tonight if it did, I can guarantee you that. And then one other thing I want to say, we probably, in looking back in retrospect, probably should have, and Alderman Petrelli and I have discussed this, probably should have had some outside source come in and do this thing instead of having it done here. Probably would have saved a lot of time and a lot of heartache. And then I want to respond just to one thing to my colleague Alderman Brown. Under the rule of parliamentary procedure, you can yield the floor anytime you have the floor. So you could have yielded it. So thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Alderman Gilley.
That's a tough act to follow. Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you about what I'm in. gosh, as much as I want to get this over with, I hate to even ask this question. You mentioned July 1, okay, and in the back of my mind, I had been wondering this the whole time, okay? July 1, would you be going to bi-weekly or semi-monthly?
In order to save money, we'd probably go bi-weekly, but this board would have 6 months to discuss it.
I can't do, okay, that was my question. I would've been all for saving $250,000, but I cannot look these people in the eye and go to bi-weekly at all. I just can't do it. There's no way. Yes, ma'am?
Can I just say one thing?
Oh, hold on. Alderman Gill, you still have the floor. If you've got a question.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
As far as people agreeing to things, I'm just going to tell you, I can get people to raise their hand with the best of them. I do it in my classroom every day at school. Hey guys, are y'all okay if I give you F's right now, but by the end you're going to have an A? Yep, got it. Sure. That's just not that. These people that raise their hand, I guarantee you, didn't have enough facts to make that decision. And the best thing is that I was not on the board when the software was purchased, so I'm so glad I am now. Sometime, most of the time, all the time. I have to support Alderman Cunningham's ordinance. I have to support our employees that have come to us, and I say us because we've all probably been at restaurants over the last month and a half and had somebody come up and thank us for what we do, and we've gotten to thank you all for what you do. This is not easy, and I hope nothing like this over the next 3 years ever happens again. Thank you.
Alderman Gilly, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. The 7-month dead period that keeps getting mentioned, when exactly was that? I missed those dates. Roughly, like, give me a month and a year.
I don't know.
Was it during your administration?
No.
Okay. All right. And here's where I'm seeing this from. I get we have to make a decision tonight. I want us to make a decision tonight, but we can't just simply make a decision. We have to make the best decision. So I would like to ask either the head of finance and or IT, there's no way anything other than a bi-monthly payroll is going to get passed tonight. What is the best way for us to implement or change back the process to bi-monthly, in your opinion? Is it option 2, or is it option 4, or the option that was mentioned today? I personally don't care when the option was presented. I just want the best option to be what we get.
The software can handle either semi-monthly or bi-weekly, because we went with the decision that was made a few years ago to bi-weekly at the time. The system was configured all to do bi-weekly. We told the vendor that we were going to miss the go-live date of the end of August because this came up. If we have to reconvert the system to semi-monthly, which we could do, we're looking at minimum 25 grand and as early as second quarter of this year.
I get that. What I'm saying is anything more than 24 paychecks is not going to happen at this board. So going forward, it's going to be 24 paychecks. What is the best way to implement 24 paycheck system?
We would have, that's kind of a trick question. Right now, our dates are all on paper. There's no accountability of time on a computer at all. So
is option 2 the best choice?
I can't answer that.
Ron?
I don't think it's going to make any difference to the employees.
Ron, is option 2 the best choice?
Is that the semi-monthly?
Yes.
Yeah. Come on up, Ron.
That's changing the pay period back.
as far as implementing the new pay plan, the biweekly is the best way to process it. Obviously, the employees and the board wants to stay with semi-monthly. We can do that in January, in theory, change the dates. Well, whichever plan you choose, we're going to have to change the work periods. I think if you wait till July 1 and you still want to stay with semi-monthly, we can do that. And you won't have to appropriate the $250 this fiscal year.
But we will next.
You will have to give some compensation. If you stay with semi-monthly, it'd be the same as you would in January.
So option 2 is we pay $250,000 this year. The other option would be to delay it further and pay $250,000 next fiscal year.
Right.
Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, anything else? Alderman Stamper. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mayor. Folks at home are getting to see how the sausage gets made up here and kind of a behind the scenes. And it's good and bad. A lot of things have been mentioned previously. I want to applaud the junior alderman from Ward 3. She's having kind of a banner night. A lot of good things are being said over there, and I agree with them. Had them written down. One of the things she said about Mary Beth and Dana, they were doing what they were directed to do. I mean, they put a lot of work in it, and it makes sense that not only do they want to not have that work kind of go to waste, but there's a significant cost involved in reinventing the wheel. Scott decided, and as we know, his administration, he'd just kind of make a decision, that'd be it. And that was clearly something that he did here. And said, make it so, kind of go and make that happen. What's happened since then, we've had a change in administration, we've had an election, we've had new policies, procedures, maybe, just a new way of doing things. And as the junior colleague to my right from Ward 6 said, we got too many chiefs involved in a decision. And this is what happens, I think. There was a time when this board, and I've been a part of this board, when there was not enough communication between all the way down to lowest staff members, including up to department heads and the aldermen. It was hard to get a call back, an email returned. I didn't like that a bit. But I don't think I like it the other way too much either. It swung the pendulum to where I'm getting emails and calls from people I don't, frankly, I don't even know, who are asking me to make decisions. And the funnel process typically, and I think works best when it's from department head, perhaps maybe an assistant to the department head communicating policy type issues or things on behalf of the department. So I haven't been pleased with a lot of the overabundance of folks telling us, kind of what they want. We get it. We know. And Scott decided that Scott Foster, excuse me. He made it clear 26 payments. If you got a salary and it's divided by 26, you're going to receive less than if you got a salary divided by 24. I mean, and in his mind, I don't want to speak for him, but if I were making that, I would think, well, you got to get some time to adjust to that. And he felt like perhaps there was sufficient time, but like I said, things happen. There's turnover, and we get what we have here. We got unhappy employees. We got unhappy department heads with other department heads. We've got dissension in the ranks. And that's not good for anybody. And so this has been done awfully. We've had options come at different times. As late as tonight, I heard option 5. I'm just throwing that out there. There's another option that just came up tonight in the middle of this board meeting. You heard it as well as I did. It moved to July 1 and possibly rolled out then. The problem is on that $250,000, even if we went to, and this is what I had, this is why I'm not a co-sponsor of this, because initially in that meeting, if you were most folks were here at that meeting, we had that $250,000 bump or whatever, the adjustment. I was for that stamper adjustment. I liked it. We were gonna make everybody whole. And my look, I needed time to digest option 4 to see if it was going to work out in the same way. And it was close. There was going to be a time where folks weren't getting as much. And my goal was there should never be a time where the employees were not receiving as much or more than they were under a new option. And really there's no option that does that. Option 2 with the adjustment does it the best. We'd have to figure something else out if we went to July 1, and I can't do all that math on the fly tonight. So we got to just make a decision. And as the alderman who spoke before me, the junior alderman from Ward 5, stated there's no appetite to go to biweekly. And the $250,000 is the seniors and juniors. Senior alderman from Ward 4 said at the special call, he said, well, if we push it to July 1 of next year, we won't have to do this ordinance. And I thought, well, that sounds good. We're saving $250,000, but we're not. It would just be buried in the budget. Because no matter what we do, we're going to make the employees whole. That's just a given. I mean, since it's not an administrative edict any longer, which is what I'd hoped it would be, and kept kind of trying to shift it, not to shift duties, but there's certain things we don't want to dive into the day-to-day actions of the city. It's not our job. But since it is our decision, we're going to make folks whole, I think. I mean, I think I speak for all of us, or at least the majority of us, when we're going to make sure that nobody's losing any money. So it's either pay the $250 now or pay it in the budget. Both of them are really an ordinance. So we decided to bite the bullet and just make this thing go away. Stick with semi-monthly. Give 5 extra days, whatever date's feasible. That's what's going to happen at this point. Is it the best thing? I don't know, but it's what we're going to do. That's what I'll vote for. That's all.
Alderman Stanford, thank you. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's an interesting dynamic among this board that it seems like we talk the most when we agree the most. I think if I may be the 7th person to say that I'm in favor of this, and that may be enough just to go ahead and pass it. But we are also having the world's largest game of not it. And so I guess I'll be the one to say not it as well, because it's about the process. I mean, let's be really serious. This board has 3 line items on its job description. The first one is we help establish and approve general policy. The second thing is we find a way to pay for it. And then the third is any other task that could come across our table. And this falls under any other task. And I know we've heard that this could sound like micromanagement if we were the ones injecting ourselves into the process, but it's not. It's that it's one of those things. We approved a policy to purchase software, but we're not going to inject ourselves into what's the software purchased, how it's administered. Ron Minix, our finance director, has an accounting system and a process, and I don't know what it is. I just trust that it works. I don't know what type of lawn equipment that we use in the parks, and when it's a push mower and when it's a riding mower. But it's one of those things we trusted to those guys. But I'm not going to say the system is broken and it's failed because it had to come to the board. It's very unfortunate that this type of level of decision has to come to the board. And it's not handled, I think, to use previous speaker's word, administratively. But it shows that the system works, that it's working. That if we're going to have to make these decisions, this board is prepared to make these decisions. And we're going to become, in many ways, very quickly, experts on some subjects we previously didn't know very much about. I remember a long time ago, this board, not this board, but a previous board and previous administration, we actually were voting on the method of limb pickup, whether you use a chipper or use a knuckle boom. And I remember Bill Portman very quickly became an expert on the differences between different types of chipper trucks. And so we can do that. And again, so it's not a failure of the system. What I'm concerned we're having with right now tonight is that we are allowing the perfect to become the enemy of the good. Now, this ordinance that's before us, if I were the one making the decision completely on me, would it be the decision I'd make? Probably not. There'd be some changes to it. But it works. It's fair. There's some things that we could recommend to do differently. But I'm not going to let the opportunity to get 100% of a solution implemented stop us from getting 95% of a solution implemented when that 95% works and that 95% is fair. If we always worried about doing things the absolute best way and the most efficient way, we wouldn't have backdoor garbage pickup. But we do, because it's a value that we have and it's one that we pay for. So I'm prepared to support this amendment. And like I said, it works. And so let's just go ahead, make the decision, and go back to working on general policy, direction for the city, and finding ways to pay for it. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it's pretty apparent with the directors that I've spoken with that I am a proponent of the semi-monthly. But with that being said, and I've said this at every meeting that we've had this discussion, my concern is that when we go to implement this program, that it's running in a way where we're not back here discussing it again. So to use an analogy from my background is you see what the end result is of your building, what your building wants to look like, and then you take the steps backwards to work up to that. With that being said, I have some questions for Mary Beth. Thank you, Mary Beth.
You're welcome.
So one of the questions is that you said that with the vendor, it's going to cost an additional $25,000
Yes.
to switch from biweekly back to semi-monthly.
Correct.
And why is that?
Because everything's been configured to go biweekly. All the pay codes, the whole pay structure, everything that was entered and configured within that new system.
So you're talking about, and forgive me because I'm not an
No,
IT
you're
or an
fine.
accounting person.
You're fine.
So what you're talking about is time, the amount of time that's going to take, or physically, this is going to take an additional $25,000 or a combination of both?
When we purchased the application, we purchased that configuration piece. And that configuration piece was I think it was a little over $25,000. We would have to purchase that again to convert to semi-monthly.
Okay. And again, I'm not.
Because they have to delete our whole database and start from scratch.
And that concerns me, and I'm not reflecting this at you, but as a whole, it concerns me that we've got a program that does not have the flexibility built into it, that we cannot, through some manipulation or time spent on our end, change from one type of a pay system to another as we need it, should our needs change. So that was my first question. Thank you. And then you said, in conjunction with the vendor and you all working on this, that it could not be implemented until the second quarter of next year. Is that correct? Or
This year.
This year?
Yeah, it'll May, June of this year.
I'm not understanding.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, 2018, sorry.
Okay, so.
It'll be May, June of next year.
Of next year?
Yes.
Okay, so if the program is not going to even be built or rebuilt by then, why would we not consider delaying this until the next fiscal year in lieu of the $250,000 coming out of the general fund? Do you know what I'm saying?
Peg, I can help with that.
Okay.
Right now, we guess employees' time. So at the end of a pay period, right now our pay periods are the 12th to the 26th and the 27th to the 11th.
Right.
And in order to meet that last day of the month payday, we have to have the data entered into our system and approved to payroll submitted 2 days before the check date. It has to be to the bank. And if that check date falls on a weekend or a Monday holiday, that throws those dates back into the pay period that we're paying. So right now on paper, we guess what people are going to work and pay them for dates they have not yet worked. They will have worked them when they get their check, but there's a lot of catch-up and paperwork that has to follow that.
Okay,
They call it carryover.
But the actual reconfiguration and implementation of this program is going to be, like, give me like the closest date you got. It'll be done.
From the system standpoint, I don't know. I have to talk to my vendor because they have to squeeze us in now because they've got other customers as well.
What's your best guess?
I would say May.
Of next year?
Of 2018, yes.
So am I not I guess my question is, if it's not going to be ready till May, I'm seeing some heads nod. Why would we not wait and run it through budget to cover the funds out of general and then implement it in July? I don't know, it's food for thought. My last point is, with the presentations and the meetings that we've had with Dana and Mary Beth, especially with Dana, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm concerned, and this is not a judgment, so please don't take that this way, that there's somewhat amount of fatigue with the implementation of this system. And would it be helpful, considering all of your other duties in your department, that a consultant is brought on to implement this particular section, this payroll system, and get it done with, so that somebody's focused on it and can just get it done and can do a dry run and make sure that we're not back at the same system, same section. I see heads. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. Alderman Campbell.
I was just in agreement with, Alderman Petrelli regarding her questions there, since it's going to be in May when it be implemented. Why not just wait? Yes, well, the junior Alderman from Ward 1, that is a good point you're pointing out there about the May implementation, but I also have the reservations and also the concerns of, are we asking not enough people to do the job? Are we understaffed in an IT department that could use more employees specifically for that software implementation to allow other people to do the day-to-day operations of the city? I'm sure there's a lot of things that have to happen here in the city that they juggle one thing and move to another and then go back to this program. So that'd be a Mary Beth question, I guess.
Wait for my budget next year.
Well, but we've been doing this for 2 years. That's what I'm getting at. We've been working on this for 2 years. Did we start off underfunded and under budget, or understaffed is what I'm getting at?
I am.
Mary Beth.
And that's really what the problem is. That's why it's taking so long to get this implemented and get it rolled out and get it working in the right direction. We need to.
Let me clarify that. That's not why it's
Well, I'm just saying, it's
taken
just
so long.
as a person looking at it, it's like,
It's been taking this long. If you follow the notes of the meetings that it was discussed, we were supposed to go live last November. And then we had another project come on board that would be the HR payroll system came on board, and we said, okay, instead of tackling it all at once, let's put timekeeping off to the side and work on that one project. And then once that project went smooth and we were comfortable that we can add on that timekeeping, it was okay, when do we want to go live? And back in April 28th, the mayor sent a message on everybody's pay stub saying, hey, come August 27th, we're going to go live with biweekly. And that was back in April.
Okay. Well, in some of my conversations with some of the department heads, the people that were, quote unquote, with that core group, it concerns me that we started off with a core group of people to look into the software and have the software they were looking at, and then for whatever reason there was an executive decision made that we're not going to go with those, we're going to go over here with this group, this one that's totally different, to save some money.
The executive decision was the budget. There was a dollar amount that we had for the product. I mean, we could have bought the Kronos application that everybody loved. It was $220,000. We had a budget of $75,000.
Okay.
So
That
there was,
sure.
I mean, that really was the deciding factor. It was, okay, we presented this application. Does it work for your needs? Yes, it does. And it fell within our budget, which is why it was picked.
The Kronos software, though, is it easier to implement?
No.
Okay, just thought I'd ask them. I don't know IT and I don't know Kronos software. That's why I'm asking the question. But I'm still looking to go to the paying twice a month. And thank you. I appreciate your time.
Another issue that has come about from all of this is the IT department's new.
Yes.
I have quite a bit of software applications that we will be rolling out. So I will be presenting them to some committee just to make sure that I'm not wasting my time going forward.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Alderman
Thank you.
Campbell?
I'm done, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Frost?
Call a question.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to call the question. This requires a 2/3 vote. We have one person left in the queue. All those in favor of calling the question? We have nobody in the queue. All those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. All those in favor of accepting first reading of ordinance 2017-35, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. No. Myself, Alderman Woodcock. That passes 11-2. Anybody else say no? Okay. Next, we have reading of Resolution 2017-28. This is a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property and directing disposal of same. Alderman Skidmore. We have a motion and a second. Alderman Skidmore, would you like to speak on this?
No, it's self-explanatory. We all know that.
Alderman Hedberg.
I just wanted to ask if are we going to ask more than one company? Or if we, sorry?
Hold on. Go ahead.
It's a what?
Alderman Hedberg, go ahead.
Okay, it just says, resolution to explore entering into a lease agreement. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, my mistake.
Alderman Hedberg, anything else?
No, I thought it was the,
All those in favor of accepting Resolution 2017-28, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. That passed unanimously. Next, we have Resolution 2017-31. This is a resolution to explore entering into a lease agreement to allow the construction of cellular telephone tower in Drakes Creek Park. So moved. We have a motion and a second. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have two amendments that was passed unanimously through Public Works to be come on through to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And it is as follows. If it's okay with the mayor and the board, I would like to just address these one at a time instead of doing them all together.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mayor. There where we go, where there it says, whereas the city of Hendersonville has been approached by a business desiring to enter in a long-term lease agreement for the construction of a cellular telephone tower at Drakes Creek Park. We should put there, after that, put and explore other options or vendors for cell tower use and require an RFP from each vendor. So in other words, what that's saying is, well, wait a minute, I can't discuss, that's First Amendment, and then if somebody will second that, then we can talk.
You want to put them both together? We can just put it one motion.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I was just trying to be nice. Okay, that's the first one. Then if you'll go down to the Second Amendment, it is where it's for the city's general fund instead of going directly to the park or to funding the park activities. It just says for the city's general fund, right there. I'm sorry, where it says generate revenue, just say for the city's general fund.
Second. All revenue go to general fund? Yes, sir.
That's fine. If you want to put it, just the main thing is to get it to the city's general fund.
We got a second from Alderman Campbell.
Okay, on discussion, if I may, Mayor.
Hold on one. Yeah, I'll come right back to you.
Sure, yes, sir. Thank you.
Are we good with all that? Did you go there? Okay. Okay. Alderman Skidmore, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let the board know that, and I know you guys know this, but we needed to be more specific on this because anytime we enter into some form, or we want to enter into a contract with someone, we should have, and I cannot think of a time that we've never done this, to have a RFP requirement from any vendor who comes before the city and says they want to do business with us, or if they want to do something of this nature. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have to be a cellular tower. It can be anything. But we should have an RFP out and to cover our bases, because we may find something that's cheaper. And then the other thing, on the Second Amendment, I think that's just a natural thing we should do. It should directly go to the city's general fund, since this tower, if it's worked out, will affect not only the park area, but all of Hendersonville. And that was it, Mayor, that was, the amendments were voted and supported by the Public Works Committee, and we asked unanimous consent on the resolution. Thank you.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you for being so nice. Alderman Frost.
Thanks.
I got a quick question for Mr. Rogers. He can just answer it from right there if you don't mind, Mayor. Brandon, do you think these towers, or this tower, if it were to go in, it won't distract at the park or look gaudy or anything like that, would it? Or have a negative appearance in the park?
Well, I can't answer that. That's a tough question. The tower will be between 120 to 150 feet, depending on what type of tower they build. To give you an example, field like softball field 4, if you're familiar with that, the athletic light posts are 90 feet. So you're talking about another 30 to 50 feet to 60 feet above that. There's all kinds of towers out there. And the other thing, it has to be so far away from the transmission line in Drakes Creek Park. There's really only one spot, and I had to get sidetracked, but while I'm up here, I'll just tell you. When I met with this initial company that reached out to us about this, there's really only one spot that they were interested in Drakes Creek Park, that people would come to them about. Verizon had came to them about. But as far as it looking gaudy, I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Are you comfortable with it being there?
I'd be more comfortable if the money's going to the park.
I'm sure you would. But that's being admitted.
Hold on. Go ahead, Alderman
For
Frost.
everybody else.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I was never asked that, but that's okay. I'm not a voting member either. So.
That's right.
Which it is what it is. You know, I think there's no doubt the cell service needs to be improved, not just in the park, but around that area of the city.
I don't want to make our parks, or make the park look negative, have a negative appearance with a tower sticking up.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder. I mean, do I think it would be a bad thing? I don't think it would look. There's so many poles sticking up in there already. I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. If it was out in the middle of an area with no poles, I think it would look more gaudy. I do agree with that, or I would say that.
Thanks, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Alderman Stamper.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, some of these things that can be initial eyesores potentially, but they have benefit that exceeds any negative, view of them. We talked about water tower earlier tonight, and just things you got to have as a city, and you can try to hide them and stuff. I guess I didn't understand maybe the spirit of I guess on the First Amendment, if RFP is just part of our normal policies and procedures, I don't know the reason why it needs to be explicit in the ordinance. And two, to me, making it just thrown in the general fund seems to just really change the whole spirit of the resolution, but that'd be a question for the maker.
Well, hold on.
Of the sponsor of the resolution.
Alderman Skidmore, go ahead.
Yeah.
You're on. Okay. Oh, now you are.
Okay, that's what I thought. When we deal with cell towers, as a rule, I don't think it should not go. I really don't. I mean, this is nothing not trying to pull any punches here, but it should go into the general fund because it affects the city as a whole, although it may be going into the park because whoever's going to do the cell tower there, that may be an ideal place for it. But it should not be a funding mechanism for any specific department head. It should be for the general fund for the whole, for the city. Then that's why it should be that way.
I don't necessarily disagree with what the maker of the amendment is saying.
Right.
It does seem to fundamentally change the ordinance is all, and so.
Well, I don't know how that it would I don't know how it would do that, actually.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. This is just a resolution, so we get one crack at this. I just know our department heads are always very accommodating to others, and just by the expression that our Parks Director expressed, and I don't know what the expectation was, but in the spirit of transparency and everybody working together, we don't need to spring stuff on folks from time to time. But I think I agree with you that it should probably be that, but maybe it should have been communicated to our Parks Director at some point. But I'll support the resolution. Thank you.
Alderman Stanford, thank you. Alderman
For
Gilly.
the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any examples around here of any? Can I ask Brandon the question?
Sure.
You and I have been to about the same amount of parks everywhere, and I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Do you know of off the top of your head? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
But I just did. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm gonna now pay better attention though. When
I
I go.
look at a lot of things at parks, but
Yeah.
usually cell towers is not one of those. I'm usually looking at the grass.
We're talking
how green
about
it
the
is.
area behind.
He's probably the same way.
Probably talking about the area behind the maintenance building.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the
Where there's
area
the
behind
most-
the maintenance shop is one thing that, and I would assume when you talked about the RFP, this may come into effect. One thing, the company that met with me, they were hands down staying away from Corps property. Did not want to touch Corps of Engineers property. They said, no, we're done. We're ready to wrap this up. And I said, well, this is some of the parks is Corps property, some is not. So that area is not Corps property. And the other option, Indirect Creek, would be in the easement of the transmission line that we had looked at. So with that being said, but I have not seen any other towers in parks, but I have not looked.
There's bound to be somewhere.
There's got to be somewhere, I'm sure.
Okay, that's all I had. That's the only question I had. I share in the. I have always not understood. I'll give you an example. When a tournament is at the park, and the Parks Department sends the people that host the tournament a bill for $125 per field per day, that money goes back in the city's general fund, not to the Parks Department. I get that, but I don't fundamentally agree with that. But I also understand that we can't use our city for fundraising to raise specific, because you get into other departments doing the same thing. I get that. I understand that. So my point is, if we make this amendment that says to the general fund, when we come to the board, or when the Parks Director or whoever comes to the board and asks for money to fund things like Wi-Fi in the park or technology things that, and you're making revenue off of technology that's in the park, I hope that this board will be understanding of that, as I know you will be. And maybe when the budget time comes, we need to make a line item in the parks budget that funnels that money from the general fund back into there somehow. But that's great. That'd be great. So I'm not going to disagree with it, and I will vote for the amendment. But because I know that across the board you have to have it that way. But I do understand where the senior alderman for Ward 6 made that question. Thank you.
Alderman Gilly, thank you. Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. I am highly, highly appreciative of the both points of this amendment. And I don't think it's weak. I don't think it's a weakness in that. I don't think there's any weakness of it being sprung or last minute for one very, very key point. Neither of these amendments restrict what we've been presented. Both of these amendments broaden our options. And first off, we are going to have another opportunity to discuss this, because all this is saying, hey, what do you think about the idea? Should anyone on the city staff even bother spend any of their time pursuing this if the board is just disagreeing with the other concept? It's the case of saying, hey, let's go look at cars, but it doesn't mean you're going to go buy a car. We may say it's not in our budget, or there's nothing in here that we like, or we like the car we have now. But think about the concept of what we have. The first thing it says is that we're going to ask for bids in dealing with managing a city asset. It's very appropriate that the last resolution that we just passed had to deal with getting rid of city assets that are considered surplus. And we aren't selling them because someone came and gave us an offer. We're selling them at auction, because that's how we're going to know what the best value is and we're going to get for that. And I think anytime we have bids isn't just going to be factors of cost, and that's very important, what's the revenue, but it will start to get into factors of design. So if we agree with the concept, later on down the road, someone will come to us and say, we can build this is what it's going to look like, and here's what we can expect to get for it and how long we can expect to get it. But really all we're doing right now is just setting expectations. And I think it's important that we set the expectation that we're going to try to get the best value for anything we do when we manage that. And I think it's important we set the expectation about what's going to happen with the revenue and going with the broader fund because of one thing. No city employee, no department head, and no department owns any asset of the city of Hendersonville. The city of Hendersonville owns that asset. Departments and employees are assigned those assets to administer and to manage. And the reason why the money would go to the general fund is because, and the reason why parks receipts for tournaments go into the general fund is the same reason that fees for electrical inspections, it's the same reason for court, when you have to pay for a traffic ticket, it doesn't go directly to the police department because it goes to the general fund, and you don't want to have department heads making decisions based upon what revenue can they generate for their department, but they have to make a decision about what can they do to properly manage the assets that they're handed. And our parks are not self-funding, but that's not a problem because our police department and our fire department and our public works department, and they're not self-funding either. And so we make those decisions as part of the budget process. I would be more concerned if something did come, if there was an amendment that said, let's go ahead and restrict. We don't know what we're getting. We don't know how much we're getting. We don't know how long we're getting, what the offer is on the table. But let's go ahead and spend the money that's there. So I appreciate the amendment, and I think both of them should be passed, or I think will be passed in the same motion. And I think that we should move forward on this discussion as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you, Mayor. The sponsor of the resolution mentioned several times that this will not only benefit the park area, but other parts of Hendersonville. So is the service going to expand outside of the park?
Well, that's one of the questions. Well, I firmly believe that if we get somebody to do it, I think that's one of the main questions. I think that the tower, that we should ask that particular vendor, whether it will or not. My personal feeling is I think it would. It would benefit probably if that's the place that it's going out there by the park. It would probably be Ward 6 more than likely, and maybe parts of Ward 5. It just depends. I mean, it could be helping the people from the northern part of the county that are driving down the Vietnam Veterans Boulevard in the morning when they're talking on the phone for the cell tower. I mean, it could affect a lot of people. We just don't know, but I think it's a good question to ask. Yeah. You can't tell? I think Alderman Strauss can tell us the range, actually.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Alderman Waters.
That's called political tactics. Thank you, Mayor. This is just a question, and I'm a simple person. Everybody knows that. But a month or two ago, we voted X number of dollars for Wi-Fi in the park. Does this have any connection? Is there any way that we can take a benefit from this
will
tower?
absolutely help us get us there.
Pardon?
It'll absolutely help us get it there, and we'll get a report in the next 2 weeks on that.
But my question is, we voted, what, $50,000 for Wi-Fi? Now we're gonna vote for a tower? I'm not arguing the resolution, I'm just asking a question. Would they come back and want us to use their tower for the Wi-Fi, and we'd have to pay them? Now, I don't know, I'm just asking. Are you asking? No, I'm asking the mayor.
I don't know. I guess that sort of depends on what comes out of the RFPs.
Well, I want my $50,000 back if we have to, okay? I yield.
Do you want to try it, or you want to try that one?
I yield.
Gotcha, thank you.
It's oh no, yeah. Yes and no on the Wi-Fi. One, we get money for this tower. Obviously, we're not paying for the tower. I think we all know that. We're getting money from this. It can be pretty lucrative, upwards of $25,000 per year for the tower. We don't have to touch the construction, obviously. The Wi-Fi, with the company that I met with, they don't deal in Wi-Fi. However, there's some contracts I have behind me with other cities, City of Memphis, City of Collierville, that they actually utilize. They have, like, say, an AT&T or Verizon can put Wi-Fi points, Mary Beth's here, she'd know the technical name of that, on the tower. And because you already had electricity at the tower, you can put data points on the tower somewhere.
So they'd be taking advantage of the tower, they'd be taking advantage of it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, in some of these contracts, it states, we also, the tower, you have to allow these companies to do this, which they're already working with the companies anyway, the AT&Ts and Verizons. But if a different internet or Wi-Fi or fiber company come in and say, we want to utilize Wi-Fi in the park, we want to use the tower as one of the data points. That's probably not the correct name, but for lack of better words.
You fooled us, you're good.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
It's just something we need to think about. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Alderman Campbell.
Yes, I just want to point out that Public Works, we have the mulching facility there. The funds that we generate through that go right back into the general fund. They don't stay in Public Works. And also the codes department, they collect fees for the permitting, and it goes right into the general fund. It doesn't stay in code. So, yeah, I understand wanting to keep it there, but we really need to leave it generalized instead of pointing out one particular spot. So, thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Approximate figure, you said, that was one of my questions, $25,000 a year income?
It could be. One contract in particular, for the first 8 years, it's $20,000 a year. And then in addition to that, once they get, if they have, the first carrier is Verizon, second carrier is AT&T, starting with a third carrier, in addition to the rent money, we get, like some of the contracts are worded 35% of total sales in addition to, so it could be upwards of, instead of $2,000 a month, getting upwards of $4,000 a month, which is obviously ups the ante a little bit. So, but it's $20,000 first 8 years, $25,000 the next 6 years, $30,000 the next 6 years. So, and but I think there is a limit. It's so many years, and you get that money. And John, maybe you may confirm that. I think so. So that's an idea of way one. They're not all structured the same, obviously. And with the RFP, in my personal opinion, I would recommend that because there's other companies out there. The company that I met with is named Tower Ventures. There's another one called Crown Castle that I've did a little bit of homework on. But there's others out there. There's more than those. So there are definitely a few out there that you all can say, hey, RFP, and it can go through Public Works Committee. And if Chip and I need to work together, I'll do whatever I need to do. And if you don't want it, we won't put it in the park. I'm good with that. It's whatever you want to do.
Okay, that answered my question. So it's 25 is about an average figure, but it probably go up over a period of time.
25 per thousand. That's a base rent per year that they pay, and then and starting with a third carrier. Now we may say, well, hey, we want it with the second carrier, but starting with a third carrier is a common occurrence. Then you get 35% of those sales of that contract, or that carrier, as long as they're on contract with that company. If they lose their contract, then that percentage goes away, but you still always get the base rent for the tower. And plus, they build the tower, they upkeep the tower, all the landscaping and fencing and privacy around the tower, they have to make ourselves access to the tower. The city would never touch it. There's a long process, I think, to go through to get it for those folks, but the city doesn't touch it.
Thank you.
Alderman Stamper.
Two things, I'll be brief. One, the senior alderman from Ward 2, whether you enjoy his long-wittedness sometimes or not, there's rarely a meeting that goes by that I don't learn something from him, from others that have seniority even over me. I've been up here a while now, but the comments that he made after I spoke, I certainly am still learning and agree wholeheartedly, and I appreciate the wisdom that everyone shares. And in the same light, I'd like a chance after this resolution vote to address something you made in the mayor's comments. I'll ask the board for their indulgence after that. But I do support this amendment and resolution. Thank you.
Alderman Petrelli.
Call to question.
We have one person in the queue, and this requires a 2/3 vote. Okay, will you, if you agree with cutting off discussion, then vote yes. If you would like discussion to go on, vote no. All those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. We have one motion, includes 2 amendments currently on the table. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Now we're back on the main motion, which is Resolution 2017-31 as amended. Alderman Sprouse.
Real quick, dealing with negotiation and one of the ideas about the room. The reason why we have public access television is because when we negotiated the cable franchise agreement, they had to provide bandwidth for us to show public access television for cable. This is not just an issue of Wi-Fi in the parks. This could be a situation where you want to reserve tower space for public safety communications. These are all these factors that you get when you start looking at an RFP is what can you bring to the table that's going to bring value to the city that they may not necessarily have to, they may not want to pay us another $10,000, but if they give us the opportunity to put a repeater in for fire and police, that's going to be worth more than that to us. Lights, history does not repeat, but it does rhyme. A long time ago, we talked about putting a route, the backup route of NES distribution lines, and folks thought it was going to be absolutely horrible that we put it through the park. And I was sitting there and thinking about it, and I was driving out of Kroger, and I looked over at the park, and I think I saw about 127 poles, concrete and steel poles in the park. So it's one of those things that if there's any place you want to be able to hide a tower, it's going to be among a field of light poles. Talk about if you want to see about the value of this, talk to the Industrial Development Board. 2 weeks ago, we discussed about appropriating money that the Industrial Development Board had because they have leases on a tower, so valuable that the people who are leasing it are begging to buy it because it would be cheaper for those entities in the long run. And here's the most important thing. Not the most, but a very important thing. Whoever, should this happen, the entity that ends up building this is going to make a pretty significant investment in that tower. Long term, it is going to be to their benefit to maintain that tower because they don't want to have to walk away from that investment. Just like a business that may lease a building, once they put a couple $100,000 into the building, it's going to be hard for them to move. So these are all the things that we get when we start looking at RFPs in the most competitive situation. Thank you.
All those in favor of Resolution 2017-31, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. We have a motion to change the agenda, which requires a 2/3 vote.
I second the motion.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor of adding an item to the agenda requested by Alderman Stamper, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Alderman Stamper, you have the floor.
Yeah, you addressed in your mayor's report that you issued an apology to me. I wanted to publicly accept your apology and let you know that, emotions get high up here on the board frequently over issues and things and procedure, and we're still a new administration, relatively speaking. We've only had a few meetings so far in your first year, and we had a disagreement, and I have stayed over the last couple of weeks. I said I've never gotten, quite as upset as I had while speaking, and wanted to apologize to you for the tone that I conveyed in disagreeing. There's a way to disagree politely, and I didn't express that to you, so I just wanted to reciprocate and apologize to you, sir, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, that passed unanimously. Thank you, Matt.